Creation is the universe. Creation is everything that we can see and probably a whole lot that we can't. And it's the relationship, this amazing web of life that we have here. And nature, which is part of creation, is more like the earth itself. We have relationships with all the elements and forces of life, including the sun, we call our elder brother, the moon, we call our grandmother, winds, we call our grandfathers, the four directions, our grandfathers. And nature is the earth itself, and we call the earth mother, န့τηνḵα, our mother. As we call all women န့τηνန့α, mothers. And from mothers spring life, and we understand that. And we know that life springs from the earth, that generations that are looking up layer upon layer, waiting their time to come up and serve and be, is our responsibility. If you have a mother, then you have children. So we're children. We're children of the earth. And we're tied to the earth. We come from the earth and we go back to the earth. And the earth has great cycles of regenerative life. And it's these cycles that we're all part of. And just as the earth has seasons of life, all animals and all things that grow and fly, and including humans, have seasons of life as well. And so we grow in the same style. What's different about all of that is the time. The time that's allocated to the varieties of life that are on the earth. And we have a fairly long system of life, but not the longest. So what you have is this variety and complexity of life and the times that are allocated and what happens during those times for each of these elements. That's what's important to understand. We have instructions about how do we conduct ourselves on this earth, and probably the first one is respect. And if people followed this law, simple law of respect, you'd have a lot more peace, and you'd have a lot more quiet and a better life. When the PeaceMaker came to our territory about 1,000 years ago and brought this whole concept of peace, and he gave it to us whole. He planted a great tree of peace, a great white pine, a great symbol to our nations. He said, this is the great tree of peace. Its roots will be 4 white roots of truth. And those that have nowhere to go can follow the root back to its source and come under the protection of the great tree. When you're weak as a human being, he said, this tree will give your spine strength. Wrap yourself around this tree because it's powerful. Do not challenge the laws of nature because you cannot, you will not prevail. And so if this kind of instruction were given and understood by other people, and you wouldn't be cutting trees all over the world and destroying the infrastructure of life and everything that's in the woods. And so we had a treaty amongst ourselves. and it was called simply one dish, one spoon. That's a concept of sharing, and this world has to understand the importance of sharing. People are not instructed to share. They're instructed to gain. They're instructed to hold to themselves. They're instructed to gather unto themselves, and they're rewarded for that. You have an instruction that's contrary, very contrary to this whole concept, if indeed this is what you think is right. But this, I'm simply telling you what our instructions are. Our conduct is quite simple. Respect for life, and understanding that life is our relatives, and how goes it with them, goes it with us. The present state of the world is very serious in terms of its health and how the health relates to us. The earth can deteriorate and ultimately lose its life-giving forces, and it can change and become barren, or it can change and become snow. It has its own direction. It has its own will and ability. And we're part of that. It takes the instruction of the PeaceMaker to be of one mind. He said, when you're of one mind, the power of the good mind can change anything. So we have to somehow get to that point of unity of thought and direction and effort. And if we can do that, we certainly can mitigate what's going on now. But this whole country is fixed on the idea of distractions, and they're not looking at the large pictures. And they've become insulated against the realities of the world. Quite a while back, maybe 150 years ago, Chief Seattle said something that was very profound. We are part of a web of life, and every strand is important, and that what befalls one part will befall the other. And so this is what we don't seem to understand or comprehend, is this web of life that we live in, and how interdependent we are. And just the quality of life that comes from all the beings that are here. They'll be denied our grandchildren. And then when they lose that, then they lose even better perspective of how to survive. So we're destroying their well-being. This style of talking and observation, they tell me, is not realistic in today's times. And I suppose not if you're thinking in terms of Wall Street and a handful of people with that amount of influence and that kind of a direction in life is not going to take you in the right direction. It's very difficult to deal with a whole nation that's instructed to be greedy. But in the long run, it is absolutely the law. And as the PeaceMaker told us a long time ago, it will prevail. One of my good friends, John Mohawk, he said that human beings are a biological experiment. We're here a short time. We haven't been here long. In the time of the earth, not very long at all. And the earth is not dependent on us. We're dependent on it. So that if we choose to eradicate ourselves from this earth, by whatever means, the earth goes nowhere. And in time, it will regenerate. And all the lakes will be pristine. The rivers, the waters, the mountains, Everything will be green again. It'll be peaceful. There may not be people, but the earth will regenerate. And you know why? Because the earth has all the time in the world, and we don't. Human beings have a very consistent way of doing things, and that's learning the hard way. I just love to learn the hard way, and it seems like every generation has that, even though the instructions are clear. The peacemaker said to the assembled chiefs that he had taken all this time to raise and instruct. When you sit and you counsel for the welfare of the people, think not of yourself, nor of your family, or even your generation. Make your decisions on behalf of the 7th generation coming, so they may enjoy what you have today. So he was saying, if you take care of the future, you yourself will have peace. So peace is what we want. Peace is what we're after. We're allies, and it's a common fight, common cause. It's for the future. It's for peace. What could be better? It's a good fight. So we should be happy to be in it and happy to be able to make that difference. And I believe it's this generation, the next one coming, going to determine whether we survive.